We know Moshiach is coming. I don't know how much information it went through in this course, specifically in regards to sources that point out that we know that we are at the time and the era that Moshiach is coming any minute. We know he's already very, very late. And about 3-4 years ago, when I was constantly talking about the coming of Moshiach, then a lot of people were questioning where you're bringing all this information from, how are you so sure Moshiach is coming, how do we really know? We heard about the coming of Moshiach already for 3,000 years. Every generation, some people are talking that Moshiach is coming. So all these doubts and questions that bothered me a lot, then I had to make a very deep, long and thorough research to make sure that what I saw in my personal near-death experience, which if you haven't heard it till now, I highly suggest to go and watch it, happened to me 18 years ago minus a week and a half. So on Pesach, I'm going to be celebrating 18 years for my new birthday, I call it. Because I grew up here in Grenada. I grew up completely secular. And when I was 26, almost 27, I had a near-death experience, cardiac arrest, clinical death. 7 minutes my heart is without pulse, and where my soul left my body, went to a tour around the universe and came back. And a very intense and long experience, which during that experience, there's one part that I saw how the end of times, we'll call it, how it looked with the coming of Moshiach, the world was changed. So I had it in my own experience. Now go find it in the books, because people say, I don't go by your experience. So I spent a lot of time to look for many, many sources that point out the era of Mashiach, when, how, why, and what. So we do know that we're already very late to the coming of Mashiach. There are 2 times when Mashiach can come, what is called Be'ita ve'achishena, in its time, and I will make it come faster. The easiest way to compare it is to a pregnant woman when the doctor says this is the due date, and it never falls on a due date. Maybe one out of it falls on the due date. Baruch Hashem, I have 6 kids. Every time the doctor gives a due date, every time my wife is 2 weeks late. So, and every time the doctors, we gotta induce, we gotta get it out, and we gotta do something, and every time I have the same answer, don't worry, the last one came out, nobody stays in there, it's okay, he's gonna come out. So Baruch Hashem, and they all come out. Same thing with Moshiach. Everybody says he's not coming, it's never coming. How do we know? Don't worry, he's coming, he's here. So we do know we're very, very close to it. I literally, a few hours ago landed. It was 2.5 weeks now in the United States. And the most common question that I got from thousands of people that I interacted, we had 3 to 5 lectures every day, 2.5 weeks, 3 different states. And the most common question that I got from the local people there, is it time to leave? That's what I got from the Jews in the United States. And everybody got the same answer for me. Yes, it's time to leave. Pack up your bags and come to Eretz Israel. So, and people feel it in their bones. So just a little bit to talk about 2 things tonight, because I'm sure you got a lot of information throughout this course. And if you feel you need more, I have dozens of videos on my website. On YouTube you can find about me talking about Mashiach with sources, with information. I have a book about Mashiach, you can find it on my website. The book is only focusing mainly on sources that prove that now is the time that Mashiach is coming. But tonight I want to talk about 2 things. First of all, what are we expecting? The fact that you're saying Mashiach is coming is very nice, but what's going to happen? And then more practically saying, even if now I know the Mashiach is coming, but practically what one should and need to do. So first of all, we don't know exactly how it's going to happen. There are difference of opinions, and of course, when you ask a Jew a question, there's many opinions. Ask 2 Jews and what's their opinion, you'll get 4. So, but nevertheless, in many of the opinions, it's just a matter of not being right or wrong, is how you perceive things. But it boils down to 2 ways how the redemption is going to come, which is nice or not nice. That's it. That's how it works. Not nice means it's going to come in a disastrous way, massive war, that many sources are talking about this famous war, Gog and Magog. The Zohar is talking about there's going to be 3 wars. When World War I started, the Chafetz Chaim at the time said this is the first Gog and Magog, and he predicted 25 years later will be the second Gog and Magog, which exactly 25 years between World War I and World War II. And then he predicted that 72 years later will be the third Gog and Magog, which if you calculate it, it doesn't matter if it's 1939 or 1945, either way you're looking at it, then we're very close. Because even if you're counting from 39, that's 2011, which this is around the time when all the big war in Syria started. And if you're going from 1945, then that's 2017, which is in the peak of the war in Syria. There are so many sources. One of them, which I like the most, is actually from a book written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, where he says it's called Otzar Midrashim. You can go and look it up. The book is called Otzar Midrashim. It's page 555. And he explains there, and he says, here's for you a sign when Moshiach is coming. When you see the leader of the country of the leader of Damascus falls down, this is when Moshiach is going to come. And of course we know Damascus, the capital of Syria. I don't know how much you hear from there. I live 30 kilometers from there. Every day the jets are flying backwards and forth. Sometimes we feel the ground shaking. That's how much it's going on there. Now what's amazing is that in this Midrash, when he's talking about the leader of Syria, he names him Niron Mizrahi, which of course doesn't resemble any leader right now, but if you calculate the numerical value, the gematria of Niron Mizrahi, 571, is the same numerical value of Bashar al-Assad, the leader of Damascus. And he gives there all the description. The war is not going to be in Yerushalayim, it's going to be east of Yerushalayim, and all the nations are going to come, exactly how it is. And needless to say, I gave about 2 months ago a 3-hour lecture about this war, Gog and Magog, with all the sources, all the information. What does it mean? So chas v'shalom, there's one way that the redemption is coming is with a disastrous war, which of course we can't be naive, we can't be gullible, we can't just say, no, it's okay. No. 75 years ago, 6 million Jews were murdered, and they were warned, and people came to Europe and warned everybody. My grandmother lived in Berlin. She physically told me many times, she was 17 years old when they ran away from Berlin the night before Kristallnacht. She wasn't a little girl. She told me people came constantly and warned us, and everybody shooed them off. Oh, what are you talking about? So they were warned there, and also nobody wanted to listen. So we can't live in some dream. No, this time it's going to be okay. We also have to have our feet on the ground and understand there is a chance that chas v'shalom, this is going to come in a disastrous war, which even 250 years ago, the Gaon from Vilna was predicting that in the last war, talking about Gog and Magog, he gave an unbelievable prediction that the war will last for 12 minutes. That's without knowing that there's going to be nuclear bombs, nuclear and ballistic missiles, and so forth. And 250 years ago, the Gaon from Vilna, it says it's going to last 12 minutes. So this is option number 1, which of course we don't want to experience that, because that's not going to be a nice scene. And of course option number 2 is that Moshiach is coming, what the Talmud says, keheref ayin. Heref ayin means a blink of an eye. You blink, you open up, Moshiach is here. But for that, we need a lot of merit. As it says in other many different sources, that im Israel osim tshuva, if the nation of Israel is doing tshuva, they repent, miyad nigalim, right away they get redeemed. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai explains we don't need the entire nation of Israel, because that will be almost impossible. Rather, we need what's called a knishtachada, one group, one strong group of dedicated Jews dedicated to the Torah, following the Torah, observing the mitzvot, spreading love and Ahavat Israel, and needless to say, preventing themselves from any type of sinat chinam and any other sin that will prevent the coming of Mashiach smoothly. So we have two options how it's going to come. Of course, we're striving to bring it in a nice way. We don't want to bring it in a not nice way. Once Mashiach is going to come, this is where the opinions kind of have different of opinions. How fast the change will happen? Will it happen immediately, or if it's going to happen not immediately? Because in most sources, most opinion, it's going to be a process. A man will appear, and then he will, of course, have to fight the wars of Hashem. Not everybody is going to accept the coming of Mashiach, and not necessarily the nations. Of course, it's said in a humor way, which I don't find funny, but some people say, when its sources are talking about that not everybody is going to accept him, so many people say, yeah, if he's Ashkenazi, then the Sfardis will say, we don't want an Ashkenazi Mashiach. And if he's a Sfardi, then the Ashkenazi are going to say, we don't want a Sfardi Mashiach. So I don't know how far that is away from the truth, but in the beginning, it doesn't mean that Mashiach is going to be accepted right away. It's going to be a process where he has to, so to say, fight the wars of Hashem. That's what Rambam says, Yilachem milchamot Hashem, which is going to fight not necessarily against physically. It can be also in the political arena, it can be also in the faith. Not necessarily everybody will so fast be convinced that he is the Redeemer. It's equivalent to when Moshe Rabbeinu came to Mitzrayim. Not everybody accepted him in the beginning. Moshe Rabbeinu walks into Mitzrayim. Just imagine an 80-year-old man coming with his brother, 83-year-old man, going into Paro. It's almost equivalent that some rabbi now will go to Trump and tell him, thank you so much, you were a great leader till now please move. So, but nevertheless, the process will have to take time. That the world will have to go through the change. And again, the opinions are a little bit different because some say there's only the option of Mashiach coming in a war. In this famous war called Gog and Magog, where 2/3 of the world will be destroyed. And needless to say, after the disaster, the world will rebuild itself and so forth. And like I said before, this is the options that we want to try to prevent. But nevertheless, that's how I see it. We hoping for the best and expecting the worst. And the reason why we want to expect the worst, because that's how you prepare yourself. And if you don't, I think it's the wrong way of the approach. I'm also expecting the best and hoping for the best, but you also have to prepare yourself. And that's, I think we're going to talk in the next part of the lecture. What do you mean preparing ourselves? When Mashiach is going to come, one thing that we need to expect is only good. A lot of people are afraid of a change, but it's going to be the change for the best. Of course, we're looking at, first of all, a perfect world. No hate, and no anger, and no diseases, which will mean no hospitals, and no pharmacies, and no lawsuits, so we don't need doctors, and we don't need lawyers, and we don't need pharmacists, and we're not going to need many things. And of course, then it means that everything will start turning into a much better world. One of the first things that we know is going to happen is that we're going to rebuild Bet HaMikdash. To most opinions, it's not going to be physically that we're going to come now with a construction crew. Just imagine it's going to be an Israeli construction crew. We're going to take it for 15 years to build it. But Bet HaMikdash is going to be coming from Shamayim. How it's going to happen, to most opinions, Bet HaMikdash will just come down from Shamayim and we're going to all stand with our jaws down. To many people, they're saying, listen, it doesn't make sense. You're talking about all these miracles. But I always like looking at the past. And the past is that when Moshe Rabbeinu went into Mitzrayim, they also didn't believe him, and he started doing miracles that our mind cannot fathom. Next week, we're going to read the Haggadah, and we're talking about the plagues. It looks like, okay, whatever. Just imagine how it looked when they were going through the plagues. And our sources are saying, what you have seen when I took you out of Mitzrayim is nothing compared to what you're going to see when Mashiach is going to come. So just imagine the visions, what they saw, the sea splitting, and many other things happening. And now Hashem is already starting to slowly hint to us how it's going to look. Slowly we're getting a taste of it. But nevertheless, we are up to a beautiful show how it's going to look when Mashiach is going to come. We just need to start preparing ourselves that we're going to accept it and not chas v'shalom resent it. Now, one of the first things that's going to happen when Beit HaMikdash comes down on Har HaBayit, then with Mashiach appears two individuals, which one of them is Moshe Rabbeinu and another one is Aaron HaKohen. All sources are saying Mashiach is going to appear in the Galil, in the north of Israel. To most opinions, he's going to appear in Tzfat. That's why I already moved there 4 years ago to the top of the hill, have a bird's eye view, 360-degree panoramic view. I cannot miss any person moving there. And then make his way down to Yerushalayim, which one of the first things we're going to do is slaughter the red heifer. There are a few red heifers that they found. They found one in Oklahoma, they found one in New Jersey, they said one of them is already in Israel. There is Machon HaMikdash that they're dealing with it. There was an individual that found a red heifer in New Jersey, in his farm. He had a red heifer. And you can find his interview and his video on YouTube where he was offered $1 million for the red heifer, and he's like, no, he's not even Jew. And he says, no, I know exactly what it means. So we do have already a red heifer, which is one of the many signs that Mashiach is already here. And once the red heifer is being slaughtered, which will be red heifer number 10, we already had 9. One at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, and then another 8 in the two holy temples. And the red heifer number 8 will be very, very soon. And the first thing that we're going to have, where we're all going to be sprinkled with the mei chatat, the holy water. And this is when the prophet says, "Ve'turuach hatuma avir min haaretz," and the spirit of impurity I will remove from the land. Which means that right away we are going to be woken up, so to say, from the state of impurity that we are in. So right away, things like hate and anger and resentment and depression and all these characteristics that we deal with are going to be removed. Which right away we can start rebuilding the world to the place where it needs to come. Difference of opinion of how long this process is going to take. Some say it will be immediate. Some say it will evolve. But nevertheless, the first period when Mashiach is here is called Yamoto Mushy, the days of Mashiach, where the world will slowly evolve to become a perfect world. Which, like I told you, first and most important is that there's not going to be death. Although there's one opinion that says that in the beginning we'll still have death, but it's not going to be a bad thing. Meaning that we know that very close to it comes Tchiyat HaMetim. The part of death that will be not a bad thing is that unfortunately we're human, so we do different sins. Some sins cannot be corrected in this world. A person can do tshuva, but nevertheless, some sins, death is the only thing that will atone for the sin. And one of them is called Chilul Hashem, desecrating Hashem's name. That's one of the reasons why in Matan Torah, where they all went out of Mitzrayim, and in Matan Torah, in the time of the giving of the Torah, when it says that Hashem says the first word in Aseret HaDibrot, and they all died. All their souls went out of their body, and right away, Kadosh Baruch Hu was mechayeh otam. He gave them a near-death experience. Why? Because they all needed to be cleansed and forgiven for the sin of Chilul Hashem. So this is one of the most severest sins that we need to be extremely careful from, is not to desecrate the name of Hashem and to behave in the right way, especially when people are looking at me and everybody knows that I'm Jewish or observant. So there is the opinion that some will have to go through death just to be reaching a tikkun, a cleansing, and then anyways will be the resurrection of the dead, Tchiyat HaMetim. So to most opinions, we're going to have a period of 40 physical years in this world, where the world is going to shift. the first part, then we're just going to experience a perfect world, which will begin with no diseases. So right away, hospitals stop, no corruption, no anger, no hate, no jealousy, no wars, no crime. Which, when you're thinking of all these titles, this is the next part that I want to talk about. We'll get to it very soon. Is that if it says at the time of Mashiach there's going to be no more hate, so why can't we do it already now? I think that will be one great way of hastening the redemption. You know, I just now traveled. To go on a plane anywhere in the world, that's a process that, I don't know if you remember. I remember flying 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I used to live in the United States. I remember traveling in the United States. I told my daughter, she was with me in this trip, I would come with my suitcases on purpose, late, come all the way to the gate, and do the checking at the gate. They would take my luggage and I would go on the plane. That's how it was. It wasn't all this security, all this headache. Take your shoes off, take your belt off, take this off, take this and stand, sit, up, down, in, out. This is insane. And I was traveling from state to state, the lines and the humiliation. Take your socks off, take your shoes off, take this off. So I was literally thinking about it in the last couple of days. Just that will be amazing to get rid of. Now, not only that, there's all sorts of things that constantly come to my mind that we got used to it, but it's not normal. I'm sure you use in one way or another, whether it's logging into a website, logging into your email account, going into an ATM. Have you noticed that everything is secured with passwords? Why do you put a password? Because I'm afraid that somebody is going to come into my account, whatever it is, and take something. Can you imagine in the time of Moshiach we're not going to need passwords? People will just respect the fact that, oh, this is your account. Why should I even go in there? Can you imagine the idea? I don't think people really think about it. It literally came to me not too long ago. Everything is with passwords. Not only that, our house, there's a lock on the door. Can you imagine having a house that don't need a lock? Because nobody will dare to come in without knocking, or this is your house. But we live in such a weird place in time that everything has to be secured. My car has to be locked. I have to spend thousands of shekels a month on car insurance. If chas v'shalom the car will be stolen. How about the cars will never be stolen anymore? You just leave the car. There's not going to be parking tickets because everybody's going to be like, why should I do something that is illegal? Now it's like, oh, I can do whatever I want, but there's also the law. We're going to be obeying the universal law without the idea of being punished. So there are so many things when you're looking at how it's going to be when the redemption comes, and which I feel this is now, just start practicing it. So in the beginning, the world will slowly evolve to become a perfect world, which this is one thing that many people might not notice, but the food will become real food. For example, in our generation right now, 90% of what you buy in a supermarket is not real food. It's plastics and all sorts of other things that I don't even know how and why people put it in their body. And either they're not educated, either they're not aware, or either there's nothing else for them to buy. But really, when you're walking into a supermarket, most of the food that you buy, it's not really food. Just the other day, I sat with a lady who told me that her son has all sorts of behavioral disorder, and they right away diagnosed him ADD, ADHD, and so forth. And she doesn't know what to do. The school doesn't want to deal with him. And I told her, I don't know why. And right away, of course, why don't you give him this medicine, give him that medicine? I told her, I have two solutions for you. Change his diet and get him off the phone. That's it. And she was like, no, but you don't understand. I told her, oh, I understand. Change his diet and get him off the phone. And she started arguing with me. And I told her, I don't know why you're arguing with me. I told you the answer. The answer took exactly 4 seconds. Stop giving him Coca-Cola. Stop giving him sugar. Stop giving him all sorts of junk that you feed him, sugar and chemicals and food coloring and MSG and all the GMO, of course the kid is not behaving normal. Give your kid a cup of Coca-Cola in the morning, of course he's not going to be sitting on a chair quietly in class. His body doesn't know even how to react to the chemical and to the sugar. And then he sits and holds a phone for 3 hours? I hold the phone for 3 seconds, I got already a headache with the radiation. And he's holding it for 3 hours? So, and then people don't understand why the younger generation, they're all ADD. No, they're not. Just change their diet and get them off the radiation. So, I'm saying all that because when Moshiach is going to come, we're not going to have that. We're not going to have anything that is danger for us. Now they're going to start a new network in the United States, a 5G. They're saying in America that if Chas v'Shalom, well, they're not saying Mashiach is going to come, but for us, Chas v'Shalom, Mashiach is not going to come. They say in America by the year 2525, every second American is going to have cancer. Because of the radiation of the networks and the food that is being fed to people. So when Mashiach is going to come, we're not going to have that. Food is going to be real food. It's all going to be real with no all sorts of supplements and chemicals and all sorts of things to change the food, to genetically somehow modify the food. Not only that, everything else is going to start changing. For example, the energy that we're going to have in the world when Mashiach is going to come is all going to be solar energy. There's not going to be such a thing as any other way of getting our electricity, which now, that's where you see the evolving of the world, preparing for the coming of Mashiach, that we're going through stages. So now, many people, they're investing in solar panels. Yeah, it costs a lot of money in the beginning, but that's it, no electricity bill. You just have solar panels. I read a beautiful, I saw a beautiful documentary not too long ago about this Israeli woman who fundraised, bought a lot of solar panels, went to Africa, and solved the problem for thousands of villages that they didn't even have clear water because they don't have electricity. And all it took is to install a few panels, and that's it, and they have electricity. So they can pump clear water, they can filter water, they can have education. They have a strong sun there all day long. So even our energy will change. Instead of damaging the world and trying to get the energy, which all boils down to money and power, it could have been done already many years ago. We have Dudei Shemesh solar panels for 50 years. But somebody needs to make money. There's a lot of corruption. So why should we solve the problem when somebody can make money? So our energy is going to be completely solar. Now you're seeing also, everything is evolving slowly. We're starting to be introduced. So cars are becoming electrical cars. Why should we have gas and damage the world and pollution? Polluting the oceans, polluting the air. Needless to say how it's affecting human beings. So this is one of the many changes. Our energy will be clean. And many other things that will start affecting our life to be a completely different, healthy, pure life. Now just look at most people, unfortunately, are sick. Most people are sick. Why? Because the pollution around us, the water is polluted, the air. Needless to say, many things around us. Why? Because somebody is very, very corrupt, and it's all about money. It's money and power and control, and we are unfortunately led blindly into it, and we fall for that. So when Mashiach is going to come, slowly the world is going to evolve to become about truth, about honesty, about helping. You know, one thing that's going to happen very soon when Mashiach is going to come is that we're not going to have an economy. There's not going to be currencies. The nations, the way it's going to work is that every country will produce different things. One country will produce rice, one country will produce tomatoes and cucumbers, and everybody's going to be sharing. The idea of a kibbutz, what they tried to establish in this country many years ago, that's kind of a futuristic or more messianic idea that we all help each other. There's no banks. We're not going to have banks when Mashiach is going to come. There's not going to be currency and economies between countries. Rather, the countries will produce what we need and everybody will be helping each other. And that's how it's going to work. So we're looking at a world that is the exact same world that we have now, just functioning much, much better. Which means healthy, no problems, no wars, no hate, no crime. There's not going to be police, there's not going to be ambulances, and many other things. And so this will be a certain period that is called Yamoto Mushy, the days of Mashiach, where slowly the world is evolving and becoming back to a perfect world, how it was originally with Adam and Chava. And after that will come another period that is called the period of Tchiyat HaMetim, of the resurrection of the dead. Now many people think that somehow graves are going to open and bodies are going to come out. This is not how it's going to be. This is a little bit more sophisticated, so to say, to go down to the depth of the thought, but this is a very high level of spirituality or a completely different level of consciousness. So it's not going to be necessarily bodies coming out of the ground. A lot of course, when it comes to Tchiyat HaMetim, many people ask, what do you mean Tchiyat HaMetim? Well, but bodies are just going to come back. So one of the main sources can be found in the book called Shara Gilgulim, the Gates of Reincarnation, taught by the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, who was written by his students, Rabbi Chaim Vital, where he's talking a lot about Tchiyat HaMetim. He's talking there about reincarnations, how we come here over and over to complete a certain cycle. Our souls are all getting reincarnated. We are not here for the first time. Most likely also all of us here for a couple times. Could be even a few dozen times. And he's addressing there the idea of Tchiyat HaMetim, of the resurrection of the dead. There's going to be a new body. And the soul will come back to the body. And of course, the big question is, oh, wait a minute, if I had 10 bodies in 10 different lives, which body is going to come back? So first of all, we're going to be getting a brand new body. And the teachings of the Ari HaKadosh explains that we're going to have the body that is most refined in all generations. That's going to be the body that we're going to receive again. But nevertheless, this is something that a little bit hard for us to accept in our mind. That getting new bodies, everybody gets resurrected. The easiest way to explain it is that it's a completely different level of consciousness than what we are familiar with or that we know. But nevertheless, this is going to be when the world kind of shifts into a completely different reality where we are much, much more holy, kind of like how Adam and Chava were in Gan Eden, that the combination of the physical and the spiritual merge. Right now, we are only feeling the physical part of my existence. I don't feel anything spiritual. Nobody feels their soul. And even if you do acts of kindness, mitzvot, nobody feels their soul. I don't know any man that puts tefillin on and he starts feeling some type of a sensation. We do it because we are commanded to do it. But nevertheless, the idea of the era of Tchiyat HaMetim is that two realities exist together, the physical and the spiritual. A soul, a spiritual soul in a physical body, where we are living a physical world but with a spiritual entity. Or the Kabbalistic term to that is something that is infinite is merged with something that is physical, what's called Ba'al Gvul, something that is finite. The merge. I'm sure you read not once and not twice about how it was miraculous at the time of the tabernacle and Bet HaMikdash that they saw on one way something physical and at the same time something spiritual all merged together. Like the Gilui, the revelation of the Shekhinah, of the feminine aspect of the divine, on the Aron HaKodesh that was very small. The Aron Kodesh was little, this big, 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet by 1 foot. So this is the size of the Aron Kodesh, but nevertheless it was with no measurement. So this is where we're going to be seeing the combination of the spiritual and the physical together at the same time. Different prophecies, one of the prophecies by Yeshayahu, where he says, V'yada de'a ha'aretz et Hashem. Everybody in this world will be able to see godliness and know v'yada de'ah ha'aretz et Hashem. We're going to have the understanding. We're not going to see the world physical, rather we're going to see the world spiritual, but still live in a physical world, which this was the original intention when the world was created. Needless to say, at that level, we're going to be in a very high level of consciousness, where we feel as physical beings, but we're spiritual beings in a physical body. And needless to say, I think it's going to be the peak of the existence, that we have the merge of the physical and the spiritual together. Needless to say, at that point in the reality, there's not going to be jobs, there's not going to be anything that we are used to. In the beginning part of the Yamoto Mushy, Rambam says, Olam keminago noeg, the world will be the same. Now, we don't know to what extent. We don't know if we're still going to have jobs. To most opinions, we're not going to have jobs anymore. Slowly, it's going to evolve in such of a way that our time is being spent to learn Torah. All day long we're going to be learning Torah, and everything else is going to be taken care of. Everybody will equally get a certain share. You get a house, an apartment, or whatever it is. And like I told you before, the system will work that all the world is working together, and food is being provided. You sit and learn Torah, I will provide you food, this will be taken care of, and we're working in a harmonious way. But nevertheless, we're not 100% sure exactly how the involvement will be, but there's going to be a point that we're not going to have jobs anymore. You're not going to be standing in line in a bank anymore. There's not going to be money to start with. But at the time, a later stage, at the coming of the Tchiyat HaMetim, this is going to be totally different, where some say to the extent that even our physical needs are going to be completely different in regards to food and sleeping and so forth. The period of Tchiyat HaMetim, we don't know exactly how long it's going to take, because it depends when Mashiach is going to come. To most opinions, it's going to be 40 years after the coming of Mashiach. So we have 40 years of Yamoto Mushy, and then Tchiyat HaMetim, which would last till the year 6000. That's why we don't know how long it's going to take, because if Mashiach comes today, add 40 years, then as much as years left till the year 6000. Mashiach is coming in a half a year, chas v'shalom. I'm saying chas v'shalom because it should be today, but not chas v'shalom that he should come. But then whatever time will be till the year 6000. Year 6000, we all go to the next world, which is called Olam Haba. There is an argument in different opinions. What does it mean, Olam Haba? Some say Olam Haba is the world to come. Some say Olam Haba, Ha'olam Haba Bator, the next one in line. So not necessarily the world to come, rather the next one in line, which would be another elevation in the step of our consciousness, from the year 6000 to the year 7000. The world was created for 7,000 years, which corresponds to the 7 days of creation. 6 days of creation, 6,000 years. 6 days you work and you do all your labor, your action, your job. So it means 6,000 years we were serving Hashem and doing a tikkun, a rectification for the world. V'shabbat la'Hashem Elokecha. The 7th day will be for Hashem, which means the 7,000, the 7th millennium. So 1,000 years, Yom Shekulo Tov, a day of a Shabbat, 1,000 years of Shabbat, which means what do we do on Shabbat? We don't work. We don't interact with the physical world. So we know, based on different midrashim on the book of Tehillim, there's a verse in Tehillim 84 which says that 1,000 years of us is 1 day of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So 6 days of creation corresponds to the 6,000 years, which means that the 7th thousand, from year 6,000 to year 7,000, we have a whole 1,000 years of Shabbat. No working, no labor. All the labors we're not allowed to do on Shabbat means that we're shovtim. We don't do anything. But this is when we receive even a higher level of godly revelation, needless to say, a different state of consciousness, where then, to all opinion, no jobs, no eating, no sleeping, we're not living in houses. This is, nobody really knows exactly how to pinpoint how it's going to be. We all know that it is going to be a very advanced state of awareness and consciousness where we receive a godly revelation to the level of how Adam and Chava were in Grenada. Originally, there's souls without bodies. And of course, after the 7,000 year, at the end of the 7,000 years, we all go to the next stage, which that nobody knows where, how, and what it's going to be. This is the world to come. So, of course, there's much, much more information. And when a lot of people ask me, what can you tell me about how it's going to look? My answer is, it's less relevant how it's going to look. It's more relevant is, are you going to be there and you're going to experience it? And what are you doing to make it come faster? How exactly it's going to look doesn't really matter. If we're going to live in this house or that house, or the cars are going to look like this, or the cars are going to look like that, or cars are going to be flying. I look at it that it doesn't really matter. Let Hashem do His thing. Let Him surprise us. The question is, how are we preparing? Am I going to be part of it? And what can I do to make the redemption not only come faster, but come nicer and smoother? So I can live my life, a life of deception and lying and cheating and hating, experiencing jealousy and hate, being judgmental, and so forth, and the list goes on. And I don't think I'm contributing anything positive to society. I'm definitely not hastening the redemption, and definitely not contributing to the fact that the redemption can come in a nice way or not a nice way. Now, not too long ago, I gave a lecture in the United States, and it was the lecture was focusing on the potential war. So some people are interested; they came to listen, and some people says, I don't want to listen to this doomsday rabbi talking about nuclear bombs. So everybody has their own opinion. But if we're looking at history, look at how history repeats itself, and constantly we have these holocausts, and constantly we have these attacks and destructions. We just celebrated Purim a few weeks ago. What was in Purim over 2,500 years ago? It was a potential holocaust that we were supposed to be destroyed. This was not a fun time. Last month when I was giving a couple classes about Purim, I said, it says, Mishenichnas Adar marbim besimcha. When Adar comes in, you increase in joy. Why do you increase in joy? We were about to be extinct. There was a Imach Shimo, a Hitler, a Haman that wanted to destroy us. That's what you want to be happy now? I can understand when you say after the 15th of Adar, you can increase in joy. The first 2 weeks was a disaster. So if you're looking at our history, look how many times we were looking at extinction, and how many times we were about to be annihilated. So when we have enough warning, not only from sources, I'm not talking about prophecies and sources, when we have a few people, I can't even call them people, when we have nutcases around the world saying that they're going to destroy us, and this is happening on a daily basis, you can't just live your life and say, you're joking. And years ago, Hitler Imach Shimo says that he's going to destroy us, and everybody completely ignored him. And sure enough, look what history teaches us. So when we have a leader in Iran or Syria saying, we are going to destroy the nation of Israel, and you're not taking that serious, something's wrong in the system, that we're not taking these threats seriously. Because again, forget about right now prophecies and sources and rabbis, and let's forget about that for a second. I see things with my own physical eyes, and I look at history. So I come to see, wait a minute, there's another cuckoo in our generation, there's a lot of them, that they want to destroy us. So I know everybody comes with all these fancy slogans, never again, and now we're strong. It's very nice that never again and now we're strong, but there's somebody out there that is looking to annihilate us. And the Iranians are saying, we're building nuclear bombs so we can nuke you. So again, a lot of people say, listen, I don't want to hear this. Okay, you can choose to ignore the reality. I choose to see the reality. Now what am I doing to change it? So many people, when I talk about specifically this topic, nobody wants to hear it. I also don't want to hear it. I also want to live a peaceful life and not to deal with this type of a reality. But nevertheless, I can't ignore it. If I ignore it, I believe it's a very ignorant way of dealing with the situation of just putting your head in the ground like an ostrich, or an emu, or a bat ya'ana. Why do you put your head in the ground? You have something to deal with. Now, it doesn't mean that we can deal with it necessarily in a political way or in a diplomatic way. I believe, and many believe this exact same thing, our problem is not with our neighbors. We don't have a problem with our neighbors. We have a problem with the master of the universe. So I need to deal with it not only in a political, diplomatic way, I need to deal with it in a spiritual way. So if the Kadosh Baruch Hu is already sending me all sorts of individuals to poke me and to annoy me and to attack me, is instead of me looking at the problem, look at the source of it. And the problem that we have is that we are not following what the Torah is saying. I'm not talking about going to shul now and putting tefillin on. That's very nice that we eat kosher, and Baruch Hashem, there's a lot more Torah than there was ever in any generation. But we still have hate, sinat chinam, we still have lashon hara and slandering. We still have so many problems that we still didn't master, so to say. So to learn Torah is very nice. To observe the Torah is also amazing. But if I can't stand you, or you can't stand me because how I dress or how I look, or which group I associate myself with, or which rabbi do I follow, and there's still this hate, I mean, of course, we're going to see the result of our own action coming in a physical way that has nothing really to do with us. If you think that now, I don't even know who won. I landed today. I asked the taxi driver very quickly what was going on. I don't even know who won. No, well, I found out very recently. It doesn't really matter. Neither one can do what we're supposed to do. This is just a puppet. Whatever prime minister we have is a puppet, with all due respect to anyone. And I don't hold any political opinions. I don't like or hate anybody. But who calls the shots is the master of the universe. That's what's going to make things change. So when we want to approach the coming of Mashiach the right way, is what change do we do now before Mashiach is coming? This is what's going to affect the coming of Mashiach. So when you're looking at how we live our life, I like looking first at myself. I don't like pointing fingers. It's very, very easy to point fingers. That's the easiest thing to do. The finger, the direction the finger needs to be pointed is here. What am I doing? So I like looking at myself and then I judge others, because it's very easy to judge other people and to say they're not doing what they're supposed to do. But the reality is that I want to look at myself first. Am I really truly honest all the time? Am I not judging any other person? We're so judgmental that it's actually horrible how we judge other people. And again, I like looking at myself. I don't like looking at other people. Needless to say, I observe what's going on around me. But when we want to convince, so to say, the master of the universe that the redemption should come easy, is that we have to look at what he's looking for. So first of all, we look in the Torah. We say, well, the Torah says, eat kosher. Okay, so we eat kosher. Observe Shabbat. Okay, we'll observe Shabbat. Put tefillin on. And many other beautiful mitzvot that we have the opportunity to do. But then there's a lot of other mitzvot that most people tend to, I don't think that one is so important. But these are the mitzvot that are causing most of the problems and can be the solution to all the problems. And that's lying, slandering, and lashon hara, cheating, judging, hating, all these mitzvot that I know many people with a nice long beard like me, black jackets, black hats, and they do all of these things that I just mentioned. Lying and cheating. And so first, the change has to be within us and not necessarily how observant we are, what we think. It's more how we deal with each other. And I think that what bothers God the most is how we deal with each other. Impatience and judgmental and resentment, and if we work just on that, I guarantee to you that not only that the redemption will come faster, it will come much, much smoother. So there are two levels how I see that needs to be the approach. The first is the fact that we are still too much involved in this world. In a week and a half, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're celebrating Pesach. We're going to be sitting around the table, reading the Haggadah, and the first thing that we're going to say is, Avadim hayinu leParo b'Mitzrayim. We were slaves to Paro in Egypt. Very interesting, it says, Avadim hayinu, we were slaves, but we're using the word hayinu, we were. That's not grammatically correct. It should have been, Avotenu hayu avadim. Our forefathers were slaves, not me. Why do we say Avadim hayinu? You see where I'm trying to logically say that? It should have grammatically said, Avotenu hayu avadim b'Mitzrayim. Right? Makes more sense. Our fathers were slaves in Egypt. Why am I saying Avadim hayinu? We were. That doesn't even make sense. So what are you trying to hint to me? That we were in Mitzrayim and then we got now reincarnated in the year 2019 and we're back here? When we're saying hayinu, is because we are avadim. We are slaves. Whether you're looking at it, and however you look at it, we are the slaves and Mitzrayim didn't change. On Pesach we say hayinu because that's the opportunity when we can go out of our slavery. So if we want to analyze, what does it mean avadim hayinu? There's a country and there's a king, Mitzrayim and Paro. When the Torah is talking about Mitzrayim, it's not talking about the country 700 kilometers from here. And when it's talking about Paro, yeah, there was a king then, Paro. Shlomo HaMelech says, Ma she'aya hu sheyeh. What was, will be. En chadash tachat hashemesh. Nothing is new under the sun. Mitzrayim is not necessarily the country, rather Mitzrayim is a state of mind or a state of consciousness that I am in a state of limitation. Mitzrayim comes from the word meitzar, something that is limiting me. In our generation they have a different term to it, it's called addiction. You tell people the word addiction, nobody wants to hear the word addiction. But in our generation we're all addicted to something. Some people are addicted to severe things, drugs, alcohol and so forth. And most people are addicted to food, to all sorts of nonsense such as websites, Facebook, Schmacebooks, exactly like you're doing. Everybody's addicted to their phone. Everybody's addicted to something. Even it can be a cup of coffee that you can't control yourself and you're having another one and another one. You know, sometimes where you see it, even in little things, you put a plate of cookies on the table. Eat one, you don't have to eat 7. So, and again, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. I'm trying to point out that we are the slaves. We are in a state of limitation. We are slaves to our jobs, slaves to the bank to pay the mortgage, and we're slaves to many different things that I have to see what is putting me in a state of limitation. Another state of limitation that I have is not necessarily to something physical, is how I refine myself. Some people that have an issue with anger, everything gets them angry. That's a state of limitation. You can't control anger. And of course, what would a person like this will tell you? They're getting me upset. No, they're not. You have the problem with anger. You have a problem with being patient. There's nothing wrong with your kid. There's nothing wrong with your wife. You are the problem, not everybody else. It's very easy to point out. Point in. Say, she's not the problem. I am the problem. So this is another state of limitation that I can't control my anger, I can't control my patience, I'm judgmental, I'm impatient and so forth. So these are all state of limitations that I'm not free, so to say. I'm limited, I'm a slave. And the thing is that there are two ways how to look at it. One way of looking at it is being very defensive and says, I'm not a slave for anything. That's ignorance. Another way of looking at it is saying, he's right. He's right, at the end of the day, he's right. If you can go without your phone for 3 days, then you are not addicted to your phone. Most people are addicted to their phone. Most people, if the phone goes bzzzt, you jump on it to see who sent you a message. And again, I'm not making fun of anybody, I'm just looking what's going on. The other day, I gave a lecture. I don't know, there was like maybe, 400 people there, huge lecture. And I like observing everything. You know what I noticed? That most of the people in the crowd were either holding the phone or the phone was on their lap. Why you come to the lecture with the phone to start with? If you're a paramedic, okay, I understand. If your wife is 9 months pregnant, I understand. But why need to hold it? Put it aside. Why need the radiation? Why are you even coming to a shul with a phone? You know what they need to do in shuls? Exactly what they do in courthouses, that outside you submit your phone. Why do you need to come with the phone to the shul? I have a shul. I don't allow anybody to come with their phone. I have a yeshiva. We learn there every day. I tell people, if you want to come with your phone, don't come. I don't want to see you in the middle of the class going out because somebody called you. If you are a doctor, I will give you a discount today. But you came to learn, why do you have to come with your phone? So again, and this is one thing out of many. The reality is, you can take it as an insult, or you can take it as an eye-opener, but we're all slaves. That's why we say, Avadim Hayinu. We are the slaves. You find in your life what you are slaves to. Now the next component, there was a king. The king was called Paro. Paro, if you switch the letters of Paro, the order, you get a new word. It's called Hafra'a. Hafra'a is something that disturbs me. Something that gets me out of my focus. Or what you call in English, a distraction. And we are, in this world, are constantly distracted. Constantly are all sorts of things are flicking around us. Again, the phones, email, WhatsApp, and all this stuff. So, nothing changed from Mitzrayim. I'm still living in Mitzrayim. I'm slaves to all sorts of physical things, to materialism. And I have a king sitting here. You know, Paro is also the otiyot of the letters Oref. Oref means the back, something that comes from the back. It grabs you from the back. Now I need to understand what is the Paro in my life. Most people are very not productive, not at work, not in relationships, not in their spiritual growth. Okay, why? Because there's distractions. And the distractions are constant. Now the ones who are suffering from it the most is the kids, because they don't know how to deal with distractions. So now they're observed as they have a problem with the keshev, rikuz, and hanakshava. They can't listen or be concentrated. Yeah, because there's distractions all the time. You need quiet to focus on your work. So when we're talking about Avadim Hayinu, we were the slaves, and we have a lot of distractions in our life. That is the first thing that one needs to focus on. How am I going out of this state of Mitzrayim, the state of limitations? That's why we have Pesach now. Everybody's busy cleaning. Cleaning is very nice. Some people take it too crazy. And you know, the house just has to be clean from chametz. 2 or 3 days, the house will be clean. People are cleaning closets. Somebody ate in the closet? Nobody eats in the closet. And then people are cleaning the chandeliers. No, there's no chametz on the chandelier. Nobody's sitting with a pita bread and going like that on the chandelier. I understand you want to do spring cleaning. That's very nice. People scrub the floors. Just sweep the house real good. Clean the house 2 or 3 days. Don't need to do it 3 months. Okay, if you want to do it just for the sake of, refresh the whole house, great. But the cleaning of the house is just to make sure there's no chametz in the house. And that can be done in 3 days. Not even, it depends how big the house is. The cleaning of the chametz is my chametz. My chametz is my ego, my geava. Getting rid of all the schmutz. Most people, all the problems is their ego. So I have to clean that. And if I clean all that before Pesach comes, and Pesach comes, then we say, Avadim Hayinu, that's it, we're done with it. I burnt the chametz. I'm out of it. I'm out of my state of limitation. So this is one thing that we want to focus on. But, like I told you before, it's not what's going to happen when Moshiach is going to come, is rather, what am I doing right now to already live in a state of redemption? That's the only way how I can make sure that the redemption will come smooth and fast. It's coming regardless, whether you agree with it or not, whether you prepare for it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not, it is coming. You have to be completely ignorant not to see that the world is evolving in such a way that there's no other solution. No state leader can come and change the situation. Doesn't matter which prime minister was chosen yesterday, he will not change anything in any arena of this country. He's another puppet of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's how it is. En chadash tachat hashemesh. The Kadosh Baruch Hu is running the world. So it's coming. Now comes the big question: am I going to be part of it? Am I contributing to make it come faster? And what am I doing to make it come smoother? So first of all, I told you what we want to focus on, because the whole point of tonight, and again, I apologize, I'm not so aware of what you have learned throughout the course. So I don't know if to give you more sources, less sources, more proof. I want to be more tachlis, as they say here in Israel. Proofs and sources, there's a lot. That's what do we do? It's what do we do when we leave the door tonight, and what do I do when I wake up in the morning? If I don't do something, then why you learn and why you look at something or why you get educated? Our sages say in the Mishnah, "Ha'maaseh hu ha'ikar." The action is what's important. And on the other place in the Talmud it says, "Gadol ha'talmud ha'mavi lidei ha'maaseh." Great is the learning if it actually brings you to do something. If you learn Torah all day long and you don't do anything with it, so why you learn Torah? Learn for half an hour and apply it. Don't learn 12 hours and don't do anything with it. So I like being more what we call here in Israel, tachlis. What are we doing? So the point that we wanted to get out of tonight, and hopefully to conclude the course in the right way, is that what are we doing when we're finishing the course and going out of the door? The first thing that I told you, Pesach is around the corner. It's an opportunity, a once-in-a-year opportunity, to tap into the energy of the universe so I can go out of Mitzrayim. And the way to do it is, okay, so our sages taught us, clean the house, clean your chametz. Chametz is only one thing, is my own geava, my ego. Most problems is because my geava was somehow pressed or stepped on. I get angry, I get upset, I get sad, I get judgmental, because somebody said something that I didn't like. So I don't want to go too much in length in that. Get rid of the chametz. Do what you need to do. Clean yourself spiritually. Pesach comes, all you need to do is follow the seder on Pesach. That's why it's called seder, by the way. Technically it should have been called the night of matzot, or the night of cherut, Lail HaCherut. Why is it called Lail Seder? What's even the common sense with the word seder? Seder means order. Because we go in a certain order. Kadesh, Uruchatz, Karpas, Yachatz. You follow the order. Like a parakeet. Don't have to ask any questions. You don't have to understand what's happening. Just follow the order. Align yourself to the spiritual light that shines in that night. You'll be a free individual. One of the reasons what we're doing on that night is not necessarily commemorating what happened 3,400 years ago. Rather, on that night, on the 14th day of Nisan, something shifted in the universe, that on the 15th day of Nisan, a special godly light came down to the world that permeated the power for all generations, that any individual that is in a state of a limitation can go out of this state of limitation. When I became observant, 18 years minus a week and a half ago, is that I didn't become right away, put a yarmulke on and went to a yeshiva. That came 3 years later. What I started in the beginning, when I became observant, the beginning of the journey, was not to do anything. I used to put tefillin on, that's it. And I didn't mix meat and dairy. What I worked on was mainly the kosher diet. But really what I worked on is the inside. And the first thing that I said, how can I be a slave to the master of the universe if I'm slave to things in this world? It can be together. Either you're slave to Hashem, which is the best thing one can do. I know it sounds not so nice, a slave, but you're a slave to the king of the world. Or you're a slave to anything else. So I had to get rid of all the junk that I had in me. And everything. I was addicted to cigarettes. I used to smoke 3 packs of cigarettes every day. So I had to get rid of it. And I cannot be a slave to a little stick of nicotine. And then during the whole Shabbat, I'm going to be like, sometimes I see, it's a fraction of a second after the 3rd star comes out, people are already smoking. Sorry to tell you, are a slave to this little stick of nicotine. So, first of all, I had to get rid of all these addictions, so to say. And I said, I cannot live in this world and serve God if anything in the physical world has control over me. not food, not anything. I have to have control over anything. I am the master, not the food, not anything else. I run the show, not something in this world. The next thing that I had to start refining myself is one major problem that we all have, and it's called a mouth. This is the major problem. This causes all the problems, this little hole. What goes in and what comes out. Kadosh Baruch Hu created us with 7 gates, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and 1 mouth. Because he knew if he's going to give us 2 mouths, one will be busy eating, the other one will be busy talking. So he says, I'll create only one. But that's the major problem. Again, what comes in the health department and in the kosher department. Most people fail in the kosher department, and almost everybody fails in the health department. The junk that comes into my mouth, which, needless to say, will affect me emotionally, mentally, and health. What the food that's out there. And then the talking department, oy oy oy, lying and cheating and slandering and cursing, and you have to focus. And again, it doesn't mean a person is bad, and I'm definitely not trying to mock anybody, but I'm telling you about my own experience. When I became observant, I used to listen how I talk, and every second word that came out of my mouth was a curse, or some derogatory word, or some adjective. Why? You know that most people, they'll bump their leg at the table, they don't say ouch. They say a not nice word. Why you have to say that word? So that has to be corrected. This is where the damage comes from. Lying, most people lie all day long. Can be nice people, but they still lie. Most people slander and cheat and say lashon hara. These are the things that's what's bothering Hashem, by the way. That is these little things. So this is one of the major problems. What goes in, what goes out. We have to be honest. We have to work on ourselves not to lie, not to cheat, not to exaggerate, not to be judgmental and so forth. These are the little things that is expecting from us. And that's what I told you before. If you're looking at the problems that we're facing in this world, look at the solution. If we have to lock everything with a password, means that most people are dishonest. You have to ask yourself, if I now have access to somebody else's computer, will I go into his emails and read his emails? No, it's somebody else's emails. It's not my business. It shouldn't be even password protected. It has to be open. This is my part. It's not your business. So when I'm looking at these things, that's how I'm doing the reverse engineering by saying, oh, if now this is the problem, so we have to work on our own solution with ourselves. So the way for me to be included in the redemption, to experience it, to hasten it, and to make sure that it's coming nice and smooth, then means that I have to do a change and not to point the finger that everybody has a problem. Is what I have to do. So it all depends on me. That's how I see it. So now we have an auspicious opportunity before the time of Pesach where we can start doing something. And don't only think necessarily about what am I going to serve for dinner in Pesach. Think of what can I do to change me at the time of Pesach, because that is an auspicious time. If you apply that, then you are participating in hastening the time of Moshiach. Because really, when you're looking about it, what's the highlight of the time of Moshiach? A perfect world. No diseases. You know that 99% of the diseases right now in our generation are coming from one source. Our food. Right? This is mainly what causes all the diseases in our generation, is the food. If you follow a very good, healthy diet, there's not going to be so much diseases. Needless to say, all sorts of things around, but I'm saying the focus on. So again, time of redemption, the food is going to be real food, good food, healthy food. Another thing that causes a lot of diseases, people are very judgmental, they're very angry, they hold things inside of them, they don't let go, they don't forgive. That causes a lot of stress and a lot of diseases. I know many times I meet people and they have a certain disease and I tell them, forgive. You obviously are upset at somebody in your past. Forgive everybody. Okay, so somebody did something wrong to you. Hashem sent them. They're just a shaliach, messenger. So, look, we want to look what's waiting for us and how I can correct it now. If I'm not going to do anything, so what's going to happen? Another day will pass, another day will pass, another day will pass. Mashiach will come anyways. but how it's going to come. We don't want to wait to sit in bomb shelters to start, sharing and loving and caring. We want to do that without that. So Hashem is already telling us, is hinting us in all sorts of different ways. You just apply that change in your life, and don't look at others, but he's not doing it. You do it. And I only look at myself, and I make sure that I don't judge other people. I try to apply this unconditional love for any individual. I don't know them. You know that most people, we judge them, we don't even know anything about them. So I like doing it myself, not to have expectations of others. And again, what is expected from us is to already now apply it in our life, and it's basic things. I know I'm repeating myself over and over, but that's what is kind of bothering Hashem that we don't do. So like I told you before, our issue is with Hashem, not with our neighbors, and not with the nations of the world. They are there just to make us realize what's going on. So, to my opinion, less relevant how it's going to look, rather more relevant is what am I doing to make sure that it's coming faster, easier, smoother, and I'm going to be able to experience it. You know that 80% of the nation of Israel, they didn't leave Mitzrayim. Chamushim alu miMitzrayim. Fifth went out. 20% went out. 80% stayed in Mitzrayim. You know why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu came and told them, guys, we're going out. You know what was the most popular question that he got? Where are we going? To the desert. Is there Wi-Fi in the desert? No. I'm not going. How am I going to check my WhatsApp? What do you need WhatsApp in the desert? No. So of course I'm saying it in a joke, but they did not want to leave Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim represented the material world. Materialism. They didn't want to leave the materialism. They wanted to stay stuck in Mitzrayim. I can't be without my Wi-Fi. Because Moshe Rabbeinu says, you know what's in the Torah? Nothing. There's just Torah in the desert. We're just going to learn Torah. So we got to already change our way of thought. It's already doing the change right now, so we can make it a better world. If I want to live in a better world, then start making it right now. And you start around you. How can I make the world a much better place? And you have to be more educated and to look all around. What does that mean? And that's what you really want to take out of the room tonight to apply into your life. That how am I changing my world and other people's worlds? Because when I change myself, my wife will be affected, my kids will be affected, my neighbors will be affected. If I'm less angry, less judgmental, I don't have jealousy or hate towards other people. So the point that we want to look at is everybody, it's one way or another, if you're looking about it, has some type of a challenge. In our generation, everybody's dealing with things in the health department, financial department, marital department, education of the kids. Unfortunately, I hear such disasters from so many different people. We get thousands and thousands of emails every day to my system, and all the emails are the same. They're all problems. I don't get emails of people telling me, I just wanted to let you know everything is good, life is amazing. Most people just complain all day long. Health is a problem, parnasa, my kids, wife. Why is there so many problems? Because Hashem is already squeezing the lifeline that we're going to scream for Mashiach to come. People come and tell me, I have problems with parnasa, pray for Mashiach. No, I'm telling you I have problems with parnasa. Mashiach will solve your problems. Have problems in here and there? Pray for Mashiach to come. That's why we all have issues in our generation. Why? Because we're pressed to a wall, and Hashem says, I want you to scream for Mashiach to come and save you. Nothing else is going to save you. What the Talmud said 2,500 years ago, on the time of Moshiach. We have nobody to count on but on our Father in heaven. So, what we want to do practically, I like being practical, what we call in Hebrew ma'asi, is I have to change me, not to try to change the world. You live by example, you do it, you refine yourself, you go out of your own limitations, and don't think that one person does not make a difference. I'm sure you experienced yesterday, I wasn't here, but they were saying every vote counts. Same thing with the coming of Mashiach. Every action counts. Every person counts. A lot of people say, oh, what is my action will make a difference? Oh, it will make a difference. There might be 7 billion people in the world, but your behavior is going to make a huge difference. Your act of kindness, your mitzvah, your thought, your positive outlook, it will make a difference. So that's what I told you in the beginning. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says we need knisht achada, one group, one strong group that is dedicated to bringing the redemption. And it's not necessarily ones with long beards and black hats. It's nothing to do with how you dress. It has to do with what's inside and with your heart. Yeah, exactly. So we have to practice all that, not to talk that, we have to practice that. If I get angry at somebody, control your anger. Don't be judgmental, don't be hating other people. We have to be united. We have to practice that, and not to do it in theory, rather to do it practically, physically. That's how we convince God. See, we can do it. We can tolerate each other. We can love each other. I can develop love to another person that is different from me. He's different, I'm different, but it doesn't mean we can't be friends and help each other. And that's the problem, that our nation only learns how to do it when we're sitting in bomb shelters. Suddenly everybody loves each other. That's the sad reality. 45 years ago, Yom Kippur War, that's when everybody was getting along. I mean, I wasn't alive then. I was born right after the war. But from what I heard, Pito, everybody helping each other. So why do we need a war for that? Why can't you do that without the war? Why can't we be friends and appreciate each other? And okay, you have your opinion, I have my opinion. Doesn't mean we can coexist. So we want to take advantage of the fact that Pesach is coming. It's a stepping stone, a boost to really go out of my own state of limitation and to make a decision in my mind that I want to become a much better person to contribute to the coming of Moshiach. So the coming will be smoother, faster, and easier. And less makes the difference if the sky is going to look like this or the sky is going to look like that. If I'm going to be eating this, if I'm going to be eating that, or where we're going to live, how we're going to live. Less relevant. I think more right now how we behave is much more relevant and needless to say much more important. So Bezrat Hashem, I hope that at least I was able to make one little change in people's hearts to understand that what matters is now, not what's going to be in 40 years. Because what I will do now will affect my future. So instead of thinking of the future, think of the present. What can I do to change the reality? The future by itself will be much, much better, Be'ezrat Hashem. So I wish you all already a Chag Pesach Kasher V'Sameach, and most important, that we should all merit to see with our own eyes the coming of Moshiach. And as we say 3 times a day, V'techezena einenu b'shuvcha leTzion berachamim, that our eyes should see this return of Hashem to Yerushalayim, to Tzion, but it should be berachamim, with mercy and with love. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we should all participate in the coming of Mashiach and see it with our own eyes very soon.